In this video, I'll be showing you my 1 in 350 scale USS North Carolina model. The base kit is by Trumpeter and the detail upgrade kit is by Eduard. This is one of my earlier ship builds. This is the 4th kit that I built. It is quite a basic kit and I didn't apply much photo etch to it, just a pretty basic photo etch upgrade kit. There are no brass barrels on the guns or anything like that. In fact, the guns for this kit, the plastic barrels that came with it, didn't include blast bags. I took the spare plastic barrels from my Missouri kit and I cut them to a shorter length because those are also 16-inch guns, but the Missouri had a longer barrel. So I cut them down and then used them as replacement barrels with blast bags for the North Carolina. What I should have done is buy brass barrels and resin airbags and then replace them properly. For the most part, the photo etch kit that I used, although very basic, was good. It had the anti-aircraft guns and railings and good radar sets. The plastic kit itself has some problems. Although this is quite a small kit and quite a simple kit, the superstructure is just not very complicated on this kit. The problem that I found was that parts don't necessarily fit so well. The biggest issue is with the 3 pieces that form the main deck. As you can see, I have quite a big gap there. What I should have done is spent more time to properly stick these 3 pieces together so that the seam line gets hidden, or have used a wood deck veneer to hide them underneath that. So although the North Carolina is a relatively quick and simple battleship to build, because of what I consider to be some of the deficiencies with the kit, I don't recommend it as a beginner's ship. And essentially that's because I think there are other kits that are as easy to build as this one, but will give you a better visual impact. The other thing that is quite nice about the North Carolina is that it is one of the few battleships still afloat that is also painted in a disruptive camouflage. The disruptive camouflage that it is currently in is slightly different from this one, but it does give you a good idea as to the colors and how things looked. So it's quite nice to be able to compare with photos just to see that you're on relatively the right track. So as has become customary in these videos, I'm just going to give you a little bit of history about the ship. The North Carolina was laid down in 1937, while the US was still neutral during World War II, and she was commissioned in 1941. The North Carolina is the lead ship of her class, and there is one other ship in this class, the USS Washington. The North Carolina class is a treaty ship. It was built under the Washington Treaty System. However, its design was later modified under the Second London Naval Treaty to increase its armament from 12 14-inch guns to 9 16-inch guns. North Carolina was mostly active in the Pacific during World War II, where she was hit by a Japanese submarine's torpedo, but not seriously damaged. She spent most of her time in the Pacific performing anti-aircraft screening duties for the carrier groups. After World War II, she was transferred to the Caribbean, where she was used in US Navy training operations. The North Carolina was decommissioned in 1947. After spending over a decade in reserve, she was struck from the register in 1960 and slated to be broken up for scrap. A campaign model on the battleship Texas Commission saved her from being scrapped, and she was ultimately turned into a museum ship in Wilmington, North Carolina. By the time I got to the North Carolina, a lot of these sort of general issues had been sorted out. I still wasn't good with doing the rigging, but that was something that was fairly easy to correct later on. So the state that you see it in now is post-rigging correction. The only other major issue with this ship is perhaps the lack of detail and some carelessness with how I stuck down some of the parts in the main deck. These are things that I cannot correct at this point. However, I still think this model stands up fairly well. I don't think it looks out of place with my other models. This was also the first ship that I built after Missouri. It was at this point that I hadn't quite decided on the importance of super upgrade kits. The Missouri I had built with a super upgrade kit, but I thought that the reason why that was important was because it was a very old, low detail kit. So I figured that I didn't need that kind of an upgrade kit to make a good model out of a more modern kit. But now, subsequently to this kit, I have always used super upgrade kits, and going forward, that is what I'll continue to do. Overall, I'm happy with this kit. although disappointed by it. I would probably rank this as the worst base kit that I've built, and that's for a number of reasons. It's not a very complicated ship, so I'd expect good detail on it, because it shouldn't be difficult to get good detail on a relatively small kit, but it is lacking. I would expect the smaller kits to have an easier and better fit, but it doesn't. It's one of the worst fitting together kits that I built. And the fact that some of the parts that you would expect to be present, like the option to install gun barrels with blast bags, were just not present in the kit at all, I find to be very problematic. It's one of the very few kits that I've come across that doesn't give you the option to fit main guns with blast bags. What is quite interesting is that I have a USS Alabama kit, and that is a more recent base model. It's a 2010 model compared to a 2005 model. And I also have a super detailed upgrade kit for that. It looks very extensive. It's a Flyhawk kit. So I'll be quite interested to see how that goes, because the South Dakotas, with which the Alabama is one, is very similar to the North Carolinas. It's a more compact ship. It's also a treaty ship, but the design of them is very similar, just kind of squished down to fit in with the treaties. So I'm going to be quite interested to see how I feel about that kit, because I'd expect them, all things being equal, to be relatively similar kits to build. But except going into that one, it's going to have a more modern base kit with a super detailed upgrade kit, and then I, of course, have much more experience with building these ships. There is only one more ship left for me to show from my backlog of built ships, and that would be the Yamato. And I'll be making a video on that and releasing it in about a month's time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Cheers.